Kindle Direct Publishing, a course on self-publishing. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to format a book for Amazon publication, both with and without the Kindle Create extension. Welcome. My name is Brian Jackson. During the last 8 years, I've self-published well over 100 books. In this video, I'll discuss how to format a manuscript for Amazon publication, both with and without Kindle Create. I'll be using Microsoft Word to format a sample document. Let's begin with formatting and publishing options, which have changed of late. The traditional self-publishing process that I used to teach went something like this. First, you create your book cover. Then you format your manuscript for Kindle ebook publication. You publish your manuscript for Kindle via KDP, the Kindle Direct Publishing web-based interface. Then you format your manuscript for print-on-demand, POD, paperback publication. Then you publish your manuscript in POD paperback via the CreateSpace web-based interface. Now, as I say, things have changed over the years. First, there are new formatting options. There's the old traditional low-level formatting option, which I like because you have complete control over everything and understand what you're doing. Or you can now use the Kindle Create program, which is a standalone program that'll format your manuscript for a publication, or use the Kindle Create Microsoft Word extension if you prefer to work within Word. There are also new publishing options. It used to be that I would publish my Kindle ebook via the Kindle Direct Publishing web-based interface, and then, in a later step, I would publish my print-on-demand paperback via CreateSpace. Now you have the option of doing both through KDP. In this lesson, I'll teach you how to format your manuscript using the traditional low-level methods. This way you'll understand what's being done and you can modify higher-level methods if you don't like the results they're producing. Then I'll teach you how to use the Kindle Create Microsoft Word plugin to format your manuscript for publication. In a later video, I'll be teaching you how to publish a Kindle ebook and a print-on-demand paperback, both via KDP. So you can see that there is a new self-publishing process. Create a book cover, yes. Format your manuscript for both Kindle ebook and POD paperback publication using Microsoft Word. Publish your manuscript for Kindle via KDP, and then publish your manuscript in POD paperback also via KDP. This is the process that I'll be showing you. Let's begin with traditional formatting. This is a 9-step process. You begin by modifying your page layout. In the past, I would modify a page layout for Kindle publishing and then later modify the layout for POD publishing. Now I realize that I can do them both at the same time and have one manuscript. Display formatting characters, and then replace the invalid characters and remove extra white space. Then we'll modify the normal and heading styles and apply those styles to our document. We'll insert a title and copyright page and add a table of contents if we'd like. That's optional. And finally, we'll add page headers and footers to be displayed by our print-on-demand paperback and ignored by the Kindle ebook. So here we go with a demonstration of traditional formatting. I'm going to bring up a copy of Word, and then within it I'm going to open a sample document. This document I trimmed down to only have a few chapters so that we can go through it quickly. I'll go to Open and Sample Document. Now immediately I'm going to save this document as Sample Traditional. And we'll go to the DocX style, the latest format. Step 1 is to format our page dimensions. We do this through the Layout menu item. Choose Layout and choose Size. Now size doesn't matter to Kindle publishing because it's going to make it the size of whatever screen is reading it. This is primarily for setting print-on-demand paperback dimensions. and you want to set it to the dimensions you want to use. The most common and cheapest size is a width of 6 inches by a height of 9 inches. So we'll set that as our paper size. Next, we'll come down to margins. Now, you can get fancy and set a 3/4 inch margin for the inside so that you get extra room where the book bends, and then 1/2 inch all around. But what I like to do is just keep it simple and set a 3/4 inch margin all the way around. There we go. We've just set our page layout. Let's say OK. Now that our page is laid out for the print-on-demand paper size that we want, the next thing that we want to do is to go to Home and turn on Display of Special Characters. Now, it turns out we already have this turned on. If I click on it, they go away. Did you notice those little P's? What this will do is it will show us the white characters that normally don't show up in a document. At first, this seems a little strange, but once you get used to it, you can actually end up writing a document and typing and not even realize that these special characters are here. Let me scroll down a little further and show you what they look like in a document. Here's some significant text, and you can see that the little backward P's represent a paragraph break. And then you have dots for spaces. And one of the things I can see now is that I have a lot of excess space at the end of this chapter. I would want to remove that, but I'll do that in a later step. First, we'll go to the top and we'll remove invalid characters. Now, the invalid characters that you can have in a document include the tab character and extra spaces. And I also like to translate dash dash to an M dash because my wife uses M dashes a lot, and sometimes Word doesn't properly translate dash dash to M dash while she's typing. Let me show you how to do this. We go to the Home menu item, and then I come over to Replace. Now, the first thing that I want to replace is a tab. Now, how do I get a tab character? Well, you go down to More, and you say Special, and here we can select a tab character. And notice that T is the way to type a tab character. What we want to replace it with is nothing. So let's replace all. And you can see that there were 0 replacements. The next replacement that I want to do is I want to take dash dash, and I want to replace that with an M dash. Again, to get the M dash, we open up More or Less here, and we go to Special, and we say, give me an M dash. And you can see that plus is what I want to replace. Unfortunately, I need it down here, so I can say plus. And what I wanted to replace was dash dash. So let's do hyphen hyphen into one of those. Oh, I'm doing find all. And there, I replaced one of them, so I found one in my document. The next thing that you might want to replace has to do with spaces. For instance, if you type 5 spaces to start at the indent of a paragraph, we're going to do that a little bit differently. So let's go ahead and search for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces and replace it with nothing. We'll replace all. There were 11 replacements where we had apparently used this indentation technique. That's it for the special characters. Now we know that we have a good, clean document without a lot of mess in it. The next thing that we want to do is replace or remove excessive white space. Now, usually you just go through the document with special characters on, and here we can see we have a bunch of new lines and spaces. Let's go ahead and I will select all that and just say delete. Now, if I find any other excessive white space, I can go ahead and I can remove that. This document is looking fairly clean. In fact, I can grab the bar here and pull through fairly fast to see that I don't have any excessive white space. Excessive white space can turn into blank pages when you finally format for either paperback or ebook. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to apply styles to this document. Now, in some cases, to create chapter headings and paragraphs, which is what we're most of the time styling, what you would do is maybe select your headers and make them bold and so on, and use extra spaces to separate them from the document. But a better way to do it is through styles. Let me show you how this works. If I go to Home, and by the way, you want to pin your menu up here while you're doing this by hitting the little pin. That will keep the ribbon around so that you can see its contents. If I go to this chapter where I can see, or this paragraph, I can see that it's of normal style. Now I can change the style. The style happens to be 5 indents for the first line of a paragraph. Let's say I'd rather use blank spaces in between my paragraphs. I would right-click on Normal, go down to Modify, and say, okay, I want it to be Times New Roman and 12 is good. It's non-bold, it's left justified, and it's single-spaced. This is all good. Now let's go to Format, Paragraph. Here, on indents and spacing, is where maybe I'd want to have it. Notice this special. This is the way that we get an indent on the first line. We say first line, indent 1/3 of an inch. If I take this and I say none, then notice the sample down here. My indent goes away. Now this would just run one paragraph into another, which would be annoying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 12 points before and after a paragraph. Now let's go ahead and say OK and see what happens to our document. Here you can see that now our paragraphs are all left justified and they have one space in between. Let's set it back to the way that we had it before. I right-click on Normal. I go to Modify. This is all fine. The Times New Roman and 12, I like it. I go down here to the Format tab. I pick Paragraph. And this time I get rid of the excess space between the paragraphs. I'm going to have them butt right up against each other. And I say, first line, give me an indent of 0.33 inches. And then I say OK, and I apply that. And notice how our paragraphs are back to the way they were, indented. Now, if I ever just want to have a new paragraph, I just press Return, and notice it's automatically indented 5 for me, so I don't have to type 5 spaces. The next thing that we want to format, and usually the only other format that I use, is for my head levels. Here, if I click on it, I can see that this is a heading 1. Now let's right-click on that heading 1 and modify it and see how it's been formatted. First of all, it's Times New Roman 14 instead of 12, and it's bold, so you knock it up just a little bit to make it emphasized. Next, we want to go to Format, Paragraph, and notice this. We could actually put after a heading some extra space. Instead, I've been putting a blank line. It's your choice as to whether you put a blank line after a header or you put some extra space. Then you don't need to put the blank line. I'm going to use the extra space. And also notice this, that I've taken the special, which would have been first line indent, and I've made it none, so it doesn't indent. Let's go OK. Now you can see we have a little bit of extra space here. I don't need this, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. We have the space built into the style. One more thing that I wanted to mention about formatting head ones before leaving this topic is that if I right-click and go to Modify, and then come down to Paragraph. Now, what I also do is I go to the other tab. Notice I've got 2 tabs up here. I've got the indents and spacing where we've been working, and then I've got line and page breaks. And I go and I turn on page break. This will create a page break before my head ones, so every chapter starts on a new page. This will take effect both on the print-on-demand paperback and the Kindle ebook. I then say OK and save, and you'll notice that now my chapter breaks take place on a new page. Now, once we've come and we've formatted the styles the way that we want, for chapter headings and our paragraphs, we just make sure we scroll through and we format everything that way. So let's get rid of this extra space. Let's go to the chapter, make sure it's a heading 1 by clicking on heading 1. Make sure that all of our paragraphs are normal, and just scroll through and format our whole document to be chapter headings. Oh, there was some extra space at the end. We probably don't want that. And let's go to the chapter heading. Here we've got some extra space. Let's get rid of that. I'll go to the chapter and I'll make sure it's a head 1. And this is definitely normal. See that it's all indented correctly. And we have one extra blank there. That's probably fine. And then here we've got some extra space we get rid of. We go to here, make sure it's a heading 1, and everything is formatted as normal. So it's all just normal paragraphs. We get to the end. You have a little space in the author note. Let's get rid of that. Make sure author note is a head 1. Okay, no extra space there. Let's get rid of that one. Make sure this is a head 1. This is all good. And then about the author, we have a little extra space now. Go to here, make that a heading 1, and everything looks good. So we've gotten rid of all the spaces, and we now have nothing but head 1s and normal paragraphs. The next thing that we're going to do is insert a title and copyright information. Now, I like to use a simple standard title, and I've included in the description a download of my standard title where you can just fill it in. Here I'm going to File, Open, my sample title, copy it, go back to my original document, and paste it in. Now I can go here and I can supply the information to make this apply to this document. So here the title, which is bold and centered, I want to be moving violation. Now the version here, I like to put versions on my documents. So the first one that I come out with is 1.0. After it's been edited, I go to 1.1, and then I just keep upping the number as new major versions and edits come out. The date is going to be May 19, 2018. Now, I usually give a book some fancy publisher name, like Black Oak Press via KDP. The year is 2018, and this should be published by author, or rather copyrighted by author. Once again, to discover more titles by the author, go to the URL. Now here, what I'm going to want to do is put in the URL of the author's homepage. And then I select the whole thing, and I come up to Insert, the menu item Insert, and Link. And I insert link. Now I want to make sure that we go to Melanie Jackson's homepage. There we go. Now we have a hyperlink in the book that will take the reader to the homepage. And the rest of this is just boilerplate. So that's our title. Let's go ahead and delete the title information we had in this document. And this we want to make a head 1. Now notice how the first chapter that I have in here is sign up for my newsletter. This is a standard promotional technique that I suggest you use, is always have your book do this. Now we can go up and we can add an optional table of contents. I would put it actually after sign up for my for my newsletter. And let's go about here and we'll insert table of contents. There we go. And then we go back up to the table of contents, hit return, and here we go. References, table of contents. Now the one that I want is a custom table of contents because I'm going to do some modification to it. First of all, I'm not going to show page numbers. And then I can just apply it. And here I've got my table of contents inserted. Now the final thing that we want to do is we want to add headers and footers for publishing a paperback. To do that, we go up to Insert, Header. Now I like the 3-part style for a header. I don't use the middle part, but I do put the author's name on the left, and here get rid of that little extra space. Go here and we'll just put a space, and then here I like the name of the book, Right Justified. Okay, I also give my head levels. Notice how it's a little close to the text. I give it just a little bit more room by coming up here and going 0.4 inches from the top. And notice how that gave me just a little bit more room. Now let's go ahead and we'll close the header and footer. Now let's insert the footer. And for the footer, what I like to use is page number. So come here to Insert, Page Number. And we're going to do bottom of page, right in the center. There we go. And that's our page number. We've now formatted a document for publication, not only for a Kindle ebook, but for print-on-demand paperback as well. And we'll publish both of those via KDP in the next lesson. Next up is using the Kindle Create Word extension to format a document. You're going to find that if you don't like the formatting of Kindle Create, you're now going to be able to modify it since you've learned the traditional method of actually using Word yourself to format a document. So let's begin. Now the first thing I'm going to do for Kindle Create is I'm going to show you how to install it. So if I'm here in KDP, what you'll notice is that you get started with Kindle Content Creation Tools. And if I click on that, I get a new screen. And on it is the option to look at the tools for Kindle Create. So here's Kindle Create, the program, and I don't see any reason to run the program if you can run it instead in Word. So we're going to use the Kindle Create add-in for Word. And you click on it and it says download it. It supports Word 2010 and above. When I click on download, it asks me where I want to download, and it downloads an exe, which is an executable for installation. I'll download this in my downloads directory, and then I'll say save. And yeah, I'll replace the existing one. Now you notice the download is quite quick, and once it's downloaded, all I do is click the little arrow to the right, and I say open to install the extension. And here it asks, would you like this to have access to my device? And I say yes, and next, and yes, I agree to the terms, and that's where it's going to install it. I've got to close Word. Okay, so let me bring down Word. I'll save this, and okay, I have closed Microsoft Word. Another version of this product is installed. Installation can't continue. Okay, so anyway, that would have normally installed the product. Let's go ahead and we'll just close the installation of that. I already have it installed, so it apparently ran into a problem. And I'm going to bring up Word. Let's reduce this in the background. Now, the first thing it does is it comes up and it starts telling you how you can use this Kindle Create add-in. So there's the Get Started, right? We're going to go to, there's going to be a new Kindle tab, and on the very left is going to be Get Started. We click on that and we can pick our theme. Now you can just scroll down, or you could pick on these and it moves forward. So we're going to format our book, and it has a previewer built in, and then we have that the same docx can go for both ebook and paperback. So we say, yeah, sure enough. Now, what I want to do is I want to open sample docx. So here's our unmodified docx for our original file, and I'm going to File, Save As, Browse, Sample, and we'll save it as Sample Kindle Create. Now, notice that we have a new Kindle tab here. So if we click on that, we begin the conversion process by just saying Get Started. And what it's going to do is it's going to apply a theme. So we can pick the theme that we would like to apply to this document. Actually, here it's going to pick the theme. And notice we have several themes. This is pretty cool. We have 4 themes. So we can go with a fancy centered header, or something simpler to the left, something more robotic. Let's go with the classic. So we continue on, and it asks for the trim size, and I'm going to go for 6 by 9. Remember, I did this manually during the traditional process. So we'd like it to be the standard POD, print-on-demand paperback size, and then we're going to finalize our book. So let me see, applying book elements. So we're going to apply various elements to things, and then we're going to finalize our book. So let's finish. And it's optimizing to Kindle. So there we go, and notice that it's highlighted under here to show the paragraph mark, so we can actually see the extra white space. So once again, with it down here, we can eliminate this white space. Several steps that I showed you in the traditional formatting are still going to have to be done. Now, let's see, I want to go here. Actually, I should stick in Kindle. So what do I want this to be? Start book elements. I want this to be not a title page. I want body elements. I want this to be a chapter title. And there, it gives it a, oh, I'm sorry, this is actually the title page. So I want it to be a book title. And this down here is going to be the author name. Now, if you don't want complete control over things and you want this kind of simplicity, you might like doing things this way. Now here I click on my body. This is a chapter title. So it's going to start on a new page, and it's going to format it all fancy. Check this out too. The other thing that you can do is you can come to the first paragraph in your story or whatever it is, and let's see, body parts, body and start, first paragraph. There we go. And when it does that, well, actually, it's supposed to give it a drop. It's supposed to give it a drop letter, but I guess it's not actually doing that in this case. Here I've got some extra white space it looks like I can get away, take away. So if you find this easier, okay, once again, we have to take away this white space. And if you'd like things to be a little fancier, here, this is a book body element, and it's chapter 1. Then you can go ahead and you can format your book this way. Now notice that the normal is formatted with a 5-space indent for you and so on. You've got a fancy font here. You can go through and you just format the book once again. So let's, okay, we want to go down, down, down. There it is. Chapter 2, we click on that and we go give that a chapter title. We'll format it all nice for us. Here we've got some extra space. And we just keep on going. Here's chapter 3. I'll click on that and I'll say, give me a chapter title. Now this is all under Kindle that we're doing this. So we're telling it how to format things fancy under Kindle. And then let's make it down to, there we go. Our author note, that we want to be a fancy chapter title, and we'll get rid of the extra space here. Here's the next one. Make that a chapter title header. There we go. And things out of there. Now you can go in and you can mix traditional methods to format things a little differently if that's what you want to do. But there you go. We pretty much formatted everything. Now, what we want to do is add headers and footers. So here's how we do that. Prep for publish and insert headers. Now it'll automatically insert a header for you that is basically just the centered name of the book. Now I can always come back to insert header here rather than doing that and say, give me a standard looking header instead of that. And I can go use the traditional method if I don't like their headers. Here we go, we'll undo that and we'll keep their header. So you can see here I'm actually modifying their header by going to the traditional methods of insert header and going to design. Now next, I'm going to go back to Kindle where we should have stuck. And the next thing that we do is we insert page numbers. And what that'll do is it'll put the page numbers at the bottom, like this, in the center, the way that I actually traditionally like doing it. So that automatically does that for you. And there you go. It's a little bit faster. You have less control. You're flying at a higher altitude than going low level. But we've just created a document. Now, in both cases, what we want to do is we want to save this eventually. Actually, I like moving. I used to use doc because KDP only supported doc formats. But now I'm moving toward docx, the new format. So I'm saving everything as docx. There we go. Now we formatted the document and we've saved it as a Word document. The next step that I'm going to show you in the next training session is how to use KDP to publish this manuscript that we just formatted on both Kindle and print-on-demand paperback. So that was Kindle Create formatting. What did you think? Was it a little simpler or do you like traditional? Did you like seeing them both so that you understand the choices that you can make and how you can mix things up? Well, please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. We're at the end. And be sure to subscribe to my channel to see more. This has been Brian Jackson, and I'll see you in the classroom.